Right. I forgot. She exclaimed, rummaging through her small bag to pull out a white envelope. What's this? It's a letter I got from Grandma. She told me to read it in secret, away from Caleb. I took the letter from Scarlett. Just then, my sister arrived to pick Scarlett up, and I handed her over. After saying goodbye to Scarlett, I quietly opened the letter. Glancing over it casually, I was shocked. What? You're kidding, right? The content was hard to believe. Rushed, I went back to where Caleb was. As soon as I returned, Caleb spoke in a whiny tone. Hey Evelyn, I'm thirsty. Could you get me some juice or something? Ignoring his request, I swiftly flipped back the comforter and reached for Caleb's pants. What? Evelyn? Without hesitation, I pulled down his pants. What the heck are you doing all of a sudden? Caleb yelled, hastily trying to pull his pants back up. I sighed at the unfolding scene. Looks like Mom's prediction was right. Hey! What's the deal with suddenly pulling down someone's pants? Are you taking advantage of my inability to move? That's awful, isn't it? Caleb looked up at me, perplexed. Indeed, it was wrong to do it without saying anything. But without that, I wouldn't have been able to confirm it. My name is Evelyn, 32 years old. I graduated and joined the company, and it's been 10 years. With this tenure, I have a stable income and am trusted with various responsibilities at work. I've been leading a fulfilling life, but there was one worry. It's about my husband, Caleb, whom I've been married to for 5 years. Our encounter was at a friend's wedding. We just happened to sit at the same table. Ah, weddings are wonderful, aren't they? Really, they both look so happy. We didn't talk much, but I was impressed by how genuinely happy Caleb seemed for the bride and groom. Later, through a friend, Caleb made the first move, and we started dating smoothly. I want to marry you. After Caleb's straightforward proposal, we got married. The surprise came later. What? You've been divorced before? And you have a child? Yeah, and, you see, my ex-wife is demanding child support. Despite his divorce, his ability to genuinely celebrate others' weddings was, in a way, impressive. About the child support, isn't it just better to pay it? That's part of being a father, right? No, the thing is, I'm out of money this month. What? I had a sneaking suspicion that Caleb's income wasn't great. But I never imagined I'd end up paying child support for a child I didn't know with my salary. I rushed into marriage. I didn't regret marrying him, to be honest. But the real issue was Caleb's carelessness with money and his failure to see the problem. I quit my job again. He'd say with a nonchalant smile, time and time again. You quit. What are we going to do now? It'll be fine. You're working too, Evelyn. We'll manage somehow. He was the definition of relying on others. I didn't want him to depend on my money. Did he marry me for my money? I sometimes wondered. But putting money aside, Caleb wasn't a bad husband. He was a bit unconventional, but that was what made life exciting and fun. Feeling like something sweet. Want to hit the convenience store? Now? Yeah. On a weekday night, on a whim, we'd end up at the convenience store, just for sweets. All right. I'm not sleeping until I beat this game tonight. Okay. Sometimes I'd end up pulling an all-nighter with him over a game. It was honestly tough at our age, but I didn't dislike his spirit. That's why I couldn't leave Caleb, despite his financial irresponsibility and job instability. He wasn't cheating, at least. I thought, as I let things slide, and before I knew it, here we were. But then, just the other day, I saw it. An unknown young woman sitting in the passenger seat of Caleb's car. I, who had prided myself on believing he would never cheat, felt like I'd been hit over the head from behind. The shock of Caleb's potential infidelity amidst my complete trust. Should I confront him directly or act covertly? After much thought, I consulted my sister. Married with an 8-year-old daughter, she had an immediate answer. Obviously, you gather evidence quietly. She was adamant that there was no benefit in alerting him without solid proof. So, following her advice, I focused on gathering evidence. Eventually, it became clear that Caleb was frequently seeing a woman. Her name is Abigail. She was the daughter of the owner of a private clinic where Caleb was a client. They mostly met on Thursday afternoons, driving around in Caleb's car. And I managed to capture them entering a hotel together several times. I thought he was honest about women at least. Disappointment hit me before anger. Married life wasn't unpleasant, but it wasn't easy either. In addition to the child support, I found out about his debt. Both were from before our marriage. Things I should have known about or were none of my business. He married me without disclosing these facts. Wasn't it almost like being deceived? There were times when I thought that. And I took pride in the fact that he was faithful. I never imagined even that would be betrayed. I'll confront him with everything and then leave. Caleb, carefree and nonchalant as ever, probably had no clue I knew about his secret. I wanted to give him a surprise for once. So, I was contemplating the day to reveal everything. Soon after, I received a shocking message from Caleb. Sorry, I had an accident. I might not be able to move my body anymore. I left work immediately and rushed to the hospital Caleb had mentioned. It was the clinic owned by Abigail's father. Feeling faint-hearted, I even called my mother to come with me. Are you Caleb's wife? Please, this way. I never imagined meeting this person under such circumstances. The one guiding us at the reception was Caleb's affair partner, Abigail. I had seen her face several times from behind or in profile over the past few months, but facing her directly like this felt surreal. Led to the room, I found Caleb lying in the bed. Caleb! Oh, Evelyn. You came. His voice and expression seemed good. My mother and I exchanged a relieved look. The message had startled us, but he seemed to have only minor injuries. What a relief, I thought. But then, the doctor's next words left me speechless. There's a high possibility that Caleb has become hemiplegic. Hemiplegic? It means, in Caleb's case, the right half of his body might not move anymore. Is there no chance of recovery? The doctor closed his eyes as if in deep thought. It's difficult. Then said. I found myself sobbing uncontrollably, supported by my mother. After calming down a bit, Caleb began to speak hesitantly. This hospital, because of its facilities, can't accommodate long-term patients, so I'll be sent home. But what about thorough examinations? Your right side isn't moving, right? There could be other reasons. Well, I'm tired from the accident today. We'll revisit this. Caleb's words, somewhat hesitant, worried me, but I didn't want to push him. Reluctantly, I had my mother help me take Caleb back to our apartment. After laying Caleb in bed, I went out to the entrance to see off my mother. Sorry for the sudden call today. Thank you. It's okay. But it seems the timing to confront him about the affair has vanished. Indeed. What will you do now? If Caleb is truly hemiplegic, I can't abandon him just because he cheated. I'll think about it. Remember, you're the most important to me. It seemed like my mother was advising me not to sacrifice myself for Caleb. Thanks. She seemed to want to say more, but left with a complex expression on her face. The next day, my life caring for Caleb began. Although he was hemiplegic, the other side of his body worked, so the need for care was less than I expected. However, soon, taking care of Caleb's mental health as he couldn't go outside became more challenging. I'm just so bored. Surprisingly, he didn't complain much about his immobility, but his frustration seemed to stem from boredom. He would summon me frequently for trivial things, like wanting juice or needing his back scratched. These were minor tasks, but the constant demands wore me down. During such moments, my sister's daughter, my niece Scarlett, suddenly decided to visit our home. Scarlett and Caleb hardly know each other. Why she would visit under these circumstances was initially a mystery to me. When I asked my sister why, her reply was nonchalant. Obviously, because I am worried about you. Even Scarlett at 8 years old is concerned about you. That's sweet of Scarlett. I'd join if I could, but I'm swamped with work, and it's all I can do to arrange transportation. Mom seems busy too, but at least with Scarlett around, Caleb won't be able to throw tantrums in front of a child. Her prediction was spot on. With Scarlett present, perhaps due to his male pride or just plain embarrassment, Caleb drastically reduced how often he called for me. This gave me a chance to chat with Scarlett about school life, the latest elementary school trends, and all sorts of girl talk. But why does enjoyable time always fly by so quickly? As evening approached, it was time for Scarlett to leave. My sister called to pick her up, and though it was hard to part, it was time to say goodbye to Scarlett. Okay, Scarlett. Your mother will be here soon, so let's wait outside. Okay. As we headed to the entrance, feeling the reluctance, Scarlett suddenly seemed to remember something. Right. I forgot. She rummaged through her small bag and pulled out a white envelope. What's this? It's a letter I got from Grandma. She told me to read it in secret, away from Caleb. From Mom? Thank you. I received the letter from Scarlett. Right then, my sister arrived to pick Scarlett up, so I handed her over. After seeing Scarlett off, I quietly looked inside the envelope. It wasn't mailed but delivered through Scarlett, which seemed overly cautious. What could it contain? I casually read through and was stunned. What? You're kidding, right? The content was too astonishing to believe immediately. But my mother wouldn't fabricate such a lie. If this is true, I need to verify it. I hurried back to Caleb. As soon as I returned, Caleb spoke in a coddling tone. Did Scarlett leave? Yes, my sister just picked her up. Got it. Hey Evelyn, I'm thirsty. Wake me up and get me some juice or something. Ignoring his request, I swiftly pulled back the comforter and reached for Caleb's pants. What? Evelyn? Without hesitation, I pulled his pants down. What are you doing all of a sudden? Caleb yelled, frantically trying to pull his pants back up. I sighed at the scene unfolding before me. It seems Mom was right. Hey! What's the deal with suddenly pulling down someone's pants? Are you taking advantage of my inability to move? That's awful, isn't it? Caleb looked up at me, bewildered. Indeed, doing it without saying anything was wrong. But I wouldn't have been able to confirm it otherwise. Hey! Are you listening? Caleb raised his voice again, seeing me silent and looking down. Seriously. This uncertainty about the future is unbearable. Maybe it's time to break up? I said his thoughts out loud, and Caleb looked at me in surprise. Oh, you seem almost happy about it? Your face is giving you away. Caleb, looking flustered, covered his mouth. Happy? No way. But maybe you're right. With this condition, I'll just be a burden. Maybe it's better we part ways. Caleb sighed heavily, exuding a sense of resignation. I don't mind, you know? I'll take care of you. We vowed at our wedding, remember? In sickness and in health. Eh? No, but... Besides, it's not all bad. We can still talk like before. And now, I won't have to fret over your affairs anymore. Eh? I smirked mischievously. Oh, me? An affair? His eyes darted around. His lie transparent. Don't worry. You may have been capable before, but now, you can't move by yourself. You won't be able to cheat anymore. Now you're all mine. Caleb let out a small yelp and turned pale. Evelyn, actually, I was planning to leave you. That's fine. Leave it to me. But I feel terrible about this. Don't feel guilty. We're a couple, after all. Despite my reassuring smile, Caleb trembled like a cornered deer. But just rest for now. I'll go prepare dinner. Caleb couldn't say anything more. I left the room. Certainly, I'd cornered Caleb. He'd surely take some action. I had believed Caleb was truly hemiplegic. It was the clinic of Abigail's father. I wanted to have it checked at a larger hospital, but Caleb resisted, so it never happened. Now I understand why he was so reluctant about hospitals and treatment. Immediately after leaving the room, I listened at the door. I'd left it slightly ajar, so Caleb wouldn't notice. I couldn't see inside, but I could hear everything Caleb did. "Help! I'm in trouble!" Soon, I heard him speaking to someone. He was on the phone. Speaking softly, perhaps wary of me. "That's what she said. Before bringing up divorce, she insisted we won't separate. What should I do? Escape? Impossible. I'm too scared. She must know about you and me. She's unusually persistent about infidelity. She must know already." I heard it all. Now it was clear. Caleb was on the phone with his affair partner, Abigail. "Please! Say it's a call from the hospital. Get me admitted somewhere else, any hospital. Otherwise, I don't know what Evelyn might do." As Caleb pleaded with the person on the phone, I knocked on the door. "Caleb? Are you on the phone? May I come in?" "Oh, I'll hang up now." After waiting a moment, I entered to find Caleb looking paler than before, lying in bed. "You look worse than before. Are you okay?" "Oh, I'm fine. Well, maybe not. Can you take me to the hospital?" "Of course, that sounds serious. I'll contact the hospital right away." "Ah, thank you." He looked genuinely relieved. Thinking this was his ticket out. He's sorely mistaken. The real game is just beginning. I'll expose everything about Caleb and Abigail at the hospital. Upon arrival, Abigail greeted us. "Caleb, are you okay?" "Abigail. Thanks. I'm feeling a bit off. After what happened, it's understandable." Abigail smiled knowingly and looked at Caleb tenderly. "Can I rest for a bit? I might even need to be admitted." He's not even a doctor to be making such decisions. But Abigail nodded understandingly and led us to a private room. "We don't usually do admissions, but my father will come to check on you when he's available. Please wait here until then." About half an hour later, Abigail returned with a doctor. I had met him before. He's the clinic's director, Abigail's father. "You're feeling unwell?" "Yes." Their exchange of glances was awkward. As Abigail's father raised his stethoscope to his ears, I raised my hand. "Let's cut the act, shall we?" "What?" Caleb, Abigail, and her father. All froze, except for me. "Evelyn, what are you suddenly saying?" Ignoring Caleb's protest, I grabbed his pants like before and yanked them down forcefully. "Whoa! What are you doing? Stop it!" Caleb scrambled to pull his pants back up. "As I said before, something's off, right? Are you worried that if I become hemiplegic and useless as a man?" "I see. You were only after my body. I'm disappointed." Caleb pretended to be upset, not noticing the expressions of the others in the room. "After your body? Unfortunately, I'm not as lewd as you guys." "What did you say? You still haven't realized?" "Realized what?" As Caleb tilted his head, Abigail whispered in his ear. Finally understanding, Caleb's eyes widened in shock. "No, this is, well, that." "Hemiplegic? You move too quickly for that. Everything's been exposed. Why keep up this poor act?" The letter from my mother had only a few lines. "I've looked into it, and there's a high chance Caleb's hemiplegia is an act, perhaps a lie to leave Evelyn. Maybe try pulling down his pants to see his reaction." Following my mother's advice led to this revelation. In a panic, Caleb, who was supposedly unable to move his right hand, easily pulled up his pants. "So it was all an act from the start." "No, that's not." Explain everything. Sweating profusely, Caleb complied. The day of the accident, the person riding next to Caleb in the car was Abigail. They were in the midst of an affair. The injuries were minor for both of us, but the car was badly damaged. I thought if the police got involved, Evelyn would find out. So I figured if I pretended to be severely injured, I could cover it up. The absurdity of it all left me speechless. Did you think you could keep up such a ridiculous life forever? No, Or was it all to hide your affair? That's not it. Before Caleb could respond, Abigail interrupted. Caleb was just trying to spare you the pain of a breakup. After all, finding out about an affair during a drive would be humiliating. So he told a kind lie about being hemiplegia, hoping for a smooth separation. Kind? How is cheating with someone much younger than himself, and then lying about it, kind? Stop it. Our love is real. Abigail said this proudly, but Caleb, shrinking in the background, looked like his elaborate lie had caught up to him. Is that so? Then you should have been upfront about it. Right, Abigail's father? Abigail's father flinched. His forehead glistened with more sweat than Caleb's. The moment I realized the hemiplegia was a lie, I had a lot to say to you. Me? What might that be? Abigail's father looked at me with a forced smile. Perhaps he couldn't abandon his daughter. I felt sorry for him, but as a doctor, he did something he shouldn't have done. I guess you just listened to your daughter's pleas, but how did you feel watching me break down in tears? Don't you have any professional pride? Wasn't it empty to go as far as forging a medical report? Abigail's father seemed to catch his breath. He began to speak, carefully choosing his words. That wasn't forgery. It was a diagnostic error. How could such an obviously healthy man be mistakenly diagnosed as hemiplegia? He probably wanted to insist it was a mistake, not malicious forgery. Well, as for me, it doesn't really matter. Fortunately, I have relatives in both the medical and legal fields, so I'll be consulting with them. What? You can't. Abigail's father's complexion changed. Understandably so. For a private practitioner, reputation and client reviews are crucial. If it became known that he dirtied his hands as a doctor just to unite his daughter with her affair partner, the clinic's reputation would undoubtedly hit rock bottom. Please, have mercy. There's no mercy here. I'll have my lawyer discuss the details with you later. Since Caleb seems to be in good health, please go back to your duties. He was hardly in the state of mind for work, but it was true that other patients were waiting. The calls of the nurses had been audible for a while. Yet, Abigail's father, who had been reluctant to leave, was finally forced out by me, barely able to walk, and exited the room. That left Abigail, Caleb, and me. In the silent room, I reconsidered the situation. On the day of the accident, Caleb was with Abigail, engaged in their affair. Right after the accident, given the proximity to the scene, they sought medical attention at Abigail's father's clinic. Perhaps it was then that Abigail conceived the idea. Could she keep Caleb for herself this way? It's unclear if Caleb had contemplated divorce, but it's unlikely all this was just to conceal an affair. It's more probable that Abigail persuaded him. For Caleb, who always wanted to quit his job, the allure of a doctor's daughter, a sign of wealth, was irresistible. Moreover, claiming hemiplegia would serve as an excuse to leave his job. He probably thought that if he used this as a pretext to break up before the affair was exposed, everything would neatly resolve. But that was a flawed plan from the start. I knew about their affair even before Caleb's accident. Though I lost the opportunity to confront them amidst the confusion of the accident, now that their lies were exposed, I had all the leverage. There was plenty of evidence. Well then. I looked slowly at the two of them. Caleb was sitting on the bed, and Abigail stood beside him. Regarding what comes next, I want a divorce. Surprised by my statement, Caleb and Abigail exchanged looks. A divorce, is that okay? Okay or not, I've known about your affair for a long time. I've been preparing to leave since then. Caleb looked conflicted, and Abigail's eyes sparkled. So Caleb and I can be together. We don't have to meet in secret anymore. Despite their bold meetings, it seemed they had been trying to keep it discreet. Yes, after we divorce, you're free to do as you please. However, there are conditions for the divorce. Conditions? Abigail frowned in confusion. Yes, don't worry, it's nothing serious. First, I'll be seeking compensation from both Caleb and Abigail. Additionally, there will be no division of assets. I'll be keeping all the savings. That's all. Isn't that a bit unfair, Evelyn? Unfair? Have you forgotten that for the 5 years we've been married, I've covered most of our living expenses? That alone is more than the savings. Caleb, notorious for his laziness, has never held a job for long. His income was unstable and significantly lower than his peers. Moreover, he was a big spender, still not having paid off debts from before our marriage. Sure, Evelyn has helped me, but I've been working hard too. He seemed dissatisfied with the idea of handing over all the savings. Caleb stuttered and struggled to find the right words. I didn't want to prolong this confrontation and was considering setting a later date to talk things through when, unexpectedly, Abigail came to Caleb's rescue. Caleb! We've come this far, haven't we? Don't worry about money. Dad's here, and I'll take care of everything. More than anything, I want us to freely express our love as soon as possible. Abigail. Love conquers all. In front of his soon-to-be ex-wife, the audacity of their display was astounding. What did Abigail see in him? That was a lingering question, but her intervention wrapped things up. All right, I'll leave the divorce papers, compensation, and the specifics to my lawyer. I'll send your belongings to Abigail's place. I suppose we won't be seeing each other anymore. Ah, well then. Take care. The two, already acting like a couple, cozied up to each other. I remembered something I had almost forgotten to mention. Oh, right. Don't forget to keep up with the child support payments. And try to at least make the interest payments on your debt. Abigail looked up at Caleb, standing beside her, in disbelief. What, child support? Debt? What's that about? Didn't he know? He has a child with his ex-wife. Oh, and don't get me wrong. I didn't steal him from his previous marriage. Caleb was already divorced when we met. A bit agitated. And the debt? Abigail asked. It was there even before we married. So, I don't know what it's for. How much is it? About $30,000, I believe. I smiled as I informed her, and Abigail's face went pale. Understandably so. With the added burden of paying me compensation, plus child support and debt, it's enough to make one feel faint. But we can work hard together to pay it off, right? Abigail, trying to motivate herself, clenched her fist and turned to face Caleb. Caleb. Yeah! And he nodded vaguely. Good for you, Caleb. You've got such a positive partner in Abigail. That should motivate you to find a new job. New job? Abigail's eyes were empty. Yes, because after this incident, Caleb hastily resigned. Now he's officially unemployed. He has no qualifications, so getting a full-time job might be challenging. But love conquers all, right? You'll manage. Abigail muttered under her breath. But still, there's that issue, she said. Abigail was clearly in shock, and Caleb was panicking. I waved goodbye to the two of them and left the hospital. Later, the divorce was finalized without issue. To my slight concern, Abigail's father paid all the compensation. Probably fearing that I might spill everything. Considering the potential fallout if this incident became public, he probably thought it was a small price to pay. This cleared all obstacles for Caleb and Abigail. However, they didn't remarry immediately. Caleb was pushing for it. Right away. But, well, maybe. Abigail was hesitating. Furthermore, the two of them were constantly fighting, with Caleb never finding a job and Abigail reluctant to make their relationship official. Even if you think someone is your destiny, it's understandable to hesitate when faced with such a hopeless case. In my situation, by the time I realized everything, I had already grown too attached to Caleb. If it wasn't for that, I would have left him much sooner. Thanks to all this, I'm now enjoying a peaceful life for the first time in a while. At first, I thought I might feel lonely. Caleb, despite his many problems, was good at entertaining and pampering people. But once he was gone, I realized how much more comfortable life could be. No more sudden demands for sweets, no more all-night gaming sessions. Some might find that exciting, but it was too much for my 30s body. Now I can take care of myself, live each day with ease, and not always on the edge. No more stretching beyond my limits. I'm looking forward to a life that fits me, without overextending or pushing too hard.